Have you ever wondered why the Cardassians were going to attack the Federation? And why they thought they could win? I've always wondered this, and now I think I have an explanation of why, after doing some research on the ship classes and comparing them, and I'm going to share that information with you. Now, one of the first things to consider about the Cardassians is what did the Cardassians think of the Federation? What kind of weapons did they think the Federation had? So we know they had been in a war before. And during that war, the primary ships that were seen during that war were the Miranda, the Excelsior, and maybe a few ambassadors. So from the Cardassians' perspective, the Mirandas, the Constitution, the Excelsior, and possibly ambassador classes were what they were expecting. Now you have to understand that there wasn't much of a change in technology for about 100 years prior to these engagements. The Federation, the Klingons, the Romulans, they were all pretty much stagnant. And this is one of the main reasons why the Cardassians made the incredible mistake that they did, is they did not compensate for the Federation's advancement in technology because they had no idea it had happened, and they didn't expect it. Now, let's do an evaluation on the vessel that most likely they're going to come across, and that would be the Miranda class variants, as well as the Miranda itself. Now, the Miranda itself is a tactical vessel and is the strongest version, or we will call it the Miranda Rift. So the Mirandas are not very strong, but the Miranda Rift is significantly stronger than those versions, and so that's what we'll focus on. So the Miranda Rift has an output of 196,244 in defensive capabilities. Its shields are 390,000. Its hull is 285,000. So I give it a shield and armor ratio of around 675,000. Now its mass is around 650, so it's a pretty small ship. Its armor rating is going to be around 2.28, so it does have pretty good armor. Now, when it goes to engage an enemy ship, most likely it's going to choose to use its torpedoes or its mega phasers. Now its mega phasers have a burst of 4 and they're about 16,250. Its torpedoes are 65,000. So it could launch 8 of those blasts from its mega phasers or 2 torpedoes, and they're about the same. So it come out to a ratio of 130,000. And that would be on its first barrage. Now its next set of weapons would be its Type 7 phasers, which the vessel carries altogether 12 of them. But they're around 2,812 terawatts of damage. It does have a pretty good fire rate, which is around 20, so that means it could give an output of 56,240. So that is basically the defensive capability of the Miranda. So next, we'll take a look at the Excelsior.
The most common warship seen by the Federation is the Excelsior. Now, the Excelsior has several variants. The combat version has a weapon output of 605,000, which is carrying 12 Type 8 phasers, which are capable of launching 28,750 damage per volley. They also carry 4 torpedo launchers. Now, the ship's shields are standard 390,000. Its hull value is 780,000, which gives it a shield to armor or a shield to hull value of 1,170,000. It also has a mass of 235,000, which is twice that of the Galor, and then the ship also has an armor rating of 2.67, so it means it's 3 times better than the Galor of 6.45. Now it also has a power rating which is 260,000, so that means its first attack it could deliver 4 torpedoes, which would bring 260,000 points of damage to the enemy vessel. Now that would be its best option, but it also could use its phasers as well. Now if it chose to use the Type 8 phasers, its output is only 115,000 for its volley. Now the other variant of the Excelsior, which is the most common, is using Type 9 phasers, which are 20,000 and are capable of launching 9 shots per volley, which gives them an offensive value of 180,000. Or they could choose to fire their torpedoes using both of them, which would give them a power rating of 130,000 with their first attack. Now, most likely they were going to use obviously the Type 9 phasers, bringing their attack value to 180,000. Last but not least is the common Constitution class starship. During this time period, this was a commonly seen ship. It carried 6 dual Type 7 phasers, 8 Type 7 phasers, and 2 photon torpedoes. It had a shield of 390,000, a hull value of 325,000, for a full defensive value of 715,000. Now, the Type 7 phasers were able to output around 2,800 terawatts of damage. They were able to fire 20 shots. That gives them an output of 56,240. So they're significantly weaker than most of the other weapons, but the Constitution class does kind of make up for this by having so many phasers. Altogether, it has something around 14 phasers and 2 torpedo banks. This ship is pretty similar in defensive capabilities to the Miranda. So next we're going to talk about the Galor, the standard warship of the Cardassian military. This vessel had a weapon output of 125,000, shields of 260,000, a hull of 390,000, which gives a defensive value of 650,000, and has a mass of 1,678,000, and an armor rating of 6.45. So this ship was around the same as a Miranda class as far as offense and defensive capabilities. Spiral wave technology was a little bit better than that of Type 7 phasers and about half that of Type 9. So their output is 7,500, which gives them a value of 97,500 because they have a volley rate of 13. Now, the Cardassian ships do not have torpedoes. Later variants would, but the version that we see during this time period doesn't have those weapons. It has only one heavy spiral wave disruptor cannon, which is capable of 65,000 terawatts of damage, and 8 spiral wave disruptors, which are 7,500. At this point in Star Trek history, the Cardassians had deassembled their old ships in order to create a massive fleet of Galor class cruisers. Now, the reason they had done this is because the Galor class cruisers were significantly better than the ships that they had prior, and they were able to put their new spiral wave disruptor cannon, the heavy spiral wave disruptor cannon, aboard these ships. And they honestly felt that they would be able to take on Federation ships with this new technology. So I'm going to show you a graph to show you the difference in values of the old ships versus the new ships. So in this graph, you'll see that the Galor heavy spiral wave disruptor cannon is around 65,000. Now, it's able to shoot 6 shots, so that means that its power rating is 390,000. So it's significantly better than any other ship out there. So even a heavily modified Excelsior with 4 torpedo launchers is going to deliver 260,000 points of damage. The Galor, on the other hand, can return 390,000 on that first volley. So the reason I think the Cardassians felt that they could take on the Federation is they still knew that their technology was inferior, especially around shields and hull values. But this new weapon, they believed they had an edge over the Federation, because the Cardassians could come out, engage an Excelsior class starship. The Excelsior class starship would obviously fire its torpedoes. It would be hit the vessel 4 times, and then at the same time, the Galor could deliver 390,000. Now, 390,000 is exactly the defensive value of most Federation shields. And I think it's kind of a coincidence that the Gratios came out to this. And I think that the Cardassian special heavy spiral wave disruptor cannon was specially made to engage Federation starships, knowing that their shields at the time were around 390,000. So the ship could give a first volley and take out a ship's shields, and a second Galor class starship can deliver the killing blow. So this is my opinion. This is why I think the Cardassians thought that they had a chance against the Federation, which in reality we all know that they had no idea how significantly advanced the Federation really was compared to them. And that's why when they engaged the Phoenix and the Phoenix was able to destroy two of their ships with absolutely no problem at all, even with its shields down, they were completely and utterly shocked because they knew that they were totally fucked.
Sir, a Cardassian warship is moving on the Phoenix.
Mr. Data, overlay weapon ranges of the two ships.
The warship is 300,000 kilometers from the Phoenix. It is opening fire. The Phoenix has taken a direct hit. The Phoenix is beginning evasive maneuvers. It has positioned itself outside the weapons range of the opposing ship. The Phoenix has powered up both phasers and photon torpedoes. The Phoenix is firing photon torpedoes.
He has destroyed our warship.
Does the supply ship have any weapons?
They're limited. Certainly not enough to defeat a Nebula-class starship.
Sir, the Phoenix is firing on the...
Realizing the technological difference between the Federation, the Cardassians began working with the Romulan Star Empire and gaining technology. One of the first things they did to try to accommodate their fleet was create the Galor Type 2. The Galor Type 2 was almost identical to the Type 1, except for it had an increased strength level of its armor. So its hull was increased from 390 to 520. It's also noted that there was a Type 3 variant of the Galor, which did have a photon launcher aboard it, which raised it from 125,000 to 190,000. It also had an incredibly powerful shield of 1,733,333. Its hull armor was increased a significant amount. It ended up being around 1,235,000. This ship had seen to be able to take almost 35 blasts from a Klingon bird of prey and survive for a short amount of time. That then changed its armor level to around 1.35. It's also noted that they'd created another ship, that is the Kelton class, which was more advanced than anything that the Cardassians had ever produced. It carried that advanced shield matrix of 1,733,333 and also had an incredibly powerful hull armor, which was identical to the Galor Type 3, which was 1,235,000, giving an all-around defensive value of 2,816,666. This means the Galor Type 3 in the Kelton class was around the same power level of around a Galaxy-class starship. It is noted that the Kelton class did have additional components on it and was actually a Galor with additional components added to its frame. This increased its power output, which gave it a better warp drive, and it also could carry more troops, and it could carry an additional three heavy spiral wave disruptors and an additional 8 spiral wave cannons. This give it all around 16 spiral wave disruptors and 4 heavy spiral disruptor cannons. Now this is all before they joined the Dominion. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video and learning about the history of the Cardassian ships and what they looked and compared to in canon. So all the data tables that were given are coming from Star Trek, The Next Generation, as well as Deep Space Nine. So what I did is I rewatched all those shows and I wrote down the stats and then I added them to my formula and my tablets. So at the end here, I will show you what it looked like with all the different Cardassian ships.